In these days of comedians such as Smart Joker, I wanted to remind you of comedians during my time. And we had some comedians who were strictly radio comedians. We had others who were strictly TV comedians. And we had others who were both in radio and TV. There was a comedian who was called Athman Kipanga. A lot of comedians who started comedies in the late 60s and early 70s were mentored and trained by Athman Kipanga. But Athman Kipanga had a unique sense of comedy. I think he spent 90% of his time on radio. Very few occasions was he seen on TV. But he was very unique. He was very unique in that he could go to a radio station alone and make a comedy. You could think that there are 3, 4, or even 5 people. He would speak in, say, Luo accent. He could speak in Kikuyu accent. He could speak in Swahili accent. He could speak in Maasai different. So when he was alone in studio, you would think that is a meeting between 5 people of different tribes. So one talks, the other one answers, and the other one listens, and whatever. And it is a discussion that goes up to half an hour, where just listening to the radio, you'd think that there are 3 or 4 or even 5 people. But in the truth is that he was alone. Let me try to ape him, but you'll forgive me because I would be a very poor imitator. Say, dhauri gani nakuja hapa namna hiyo? Then say, yoa, sisi kusakuja hapa. Na modo yara ugate hawata. So he could interchange that way, and you'd think that there are different people from different tribes whom you would think that they are talking. Then there was Mzee Pembe. Mzee Pembe was a very good actor. He used to act as an elderly. Then there was also Kina Mama Kayai and so on. Mize. You remember Mize? Those of my age remember. Then we had Tama bin Tama. Titi Amachina. His real name was Peter Lukoye. For those of you who are fans of football, you remember there was Lukoye Lefty. That was his son. Lukoye, just like the two, Athman Kipanga and Mzee Pembe, contributed a lot in mentoring a new generation of comedians. But the greatest thing that Tama bin Tama, Titi Amachina, hapo mwisho eka dot, did was, he is the person who brought us this program called Vihoja Mahakamani. He brought us this Vihoja Mahakamani. I remember very well the first episode of Vihoja Mahakamani, where he went to Kibra and drank, and he slept on the rail just outside the rail lines, and the train went there. So when he was taken to court, he was shocked when he was told that, and he was asking, na ulijuaje? Ulijuaje? So it was taken up by experts, such that today, Vihoja Mahakamani is more of an educative program than a comedy. But when it started off as a comedy. But it is so educative that you'd really learn about court proceedings from Vihoja Mahakamani. We had Mgongo Mture. Hey, there's a time I met Mzee Pembe and I asked him why is it that Mgongo Mture loved talking English. Mzee Pembe told me that they used to advise him to strictly stick to Kiswahili, but Mgongo Mture insisted on acting and mixing their broken English. And Mgongo Mture used to like saying, my name's in short is Mgongo, and in long, Mgongo Mture. Then we had Mutiso. Mutiso, he didn't even need to comment anything. You just see Mutiso and you start laughing. He was just born funny. From Mutiso we had Likope. Likope was a pygmy. Now, Mzee Tama bin Tama Titi Amachina had started grooming Likope as his grandchild. Then one day, when Likope was supposed to go for a shoot, he became sick. And that is when Mzee Tama bin Tama Titi Amachina hapo mwisho weka dot. You see Tama bin Tama, if you were there today, you would have said www.com.something. So when Likope did not come, he looked for somebody of that size to act in the part of Likope, and he found Inspector Mwala. Now you know how Inspector Mwala joined the comedy world. We had somebody called Makanyaga Makande. Makanyaga Makande had a Luhya accent. He had a Luhya accent, but I don't know his tribe. Let me say this when I reach there. That generation, we had actors. If you look at today's actors, like my son, Smart Joker, you find that he acts as a Luhya. But those days, people used to act different from their own tribe. Very few people, apart from Tama bin Tama, Titi Amachina, Eka full stop at the end, he's the only person who acted as a Luhya. But everybody acted as another tribe. We had Sergeant Warrior bin Hu. That was the first prosecutor. Warrior bin Hu was the first prosecutor in Vihoja Mahakamani. Then we had Amka Twende Mwana wa Kilonzo. As I've said, nobody acted in his own mother tongue. Amka Twende Mwana wa Kilonzo acted in a Kamba language, and people used to think he's a Mukamba by the name Kilonzo. But he was called Taskei, and he was a Luo. He was a Luo, but acting as a Mukamba. And he acted so well that I'm sure those of my age in the comment section will doubt that and start saying that I'm cheating, that Amka Twende must have been a Mukamba. But Amka Twende was a Luo. We had Ojwang Hatari. Not Hatari, Atari. Ojwang Benson Wanjau was a Kikuyu, but he acted like a Luo. He looked like a Luo. And that is what I'm saying. The actors, the comedians of that time are better by far than comedians of today, because very few, I think it is only Tama bin Tama who acted as a Luhya, but all of them used to act other tribes apart from there. I said Amka Twende Mwana wa Kilonzo acted as a Mukamba, but in reality he was a Luo. Now Ojwang Atari acted as a Luo, but he was a Kikuyu. Then we had Othorongongo Danger. Othorongongo Danger acted as a Luo, but Othorongongo Danger was a Luhya, and he used to work with the Kenya Railways. By then it used to be called East Africa Railways. Now there is something I want to tell you about Ojwang Atari and Othorongongo Danger. You see, when they started acting, one started calling himself Atari, Ojwang Atari. And Othorongongo was calling himself Othorongongo Danger. Meaning, it is the same name, but in Swahili and English. Lastly, the individual is not a comedian, but he was a fellow very good in poems. He used to be called Abdallah Mwasimba. We used to have a program where you would write a poem and take it to him. A Swahili poem is called shairi, or if in plural, it's mashairi. So Abdallah Mwasimba could just read your poem, which you have formed, and within minutes, he would sing it on radio. That, viewers, is about the comedians of the 60s and 70s.